What if you were born into a tribe of the Amazon? Before we begin, what hour found you here tonight? Can't sleep. Neither can many others. Drop your time below, I always read them. Before your name, before your breath, before even your cry, there is rhythm. It echoes through the ground, rising from the hollowed logs your uncles strike in circles outside the longhouse. It trembles in the bark, the woven thatch, and in the bellies of the frogs chirping along the river. The forest has a heartbeat, and tonight it pulses for your arrival. You are born not in silence but in song. Your mother lies on a bed of woven palm leaves. Her skin glistens with sweat and moonlight. Her voice is low, not crying out, but humming, a song her mother sang before her, a song older than the trees. She grips the hand of the midwife, who wears red clay on her cheeks and dried feathers braided through her hair. Her eyes do not blink. When you arrive, it is not with the shout of a stranger. You slide into the world slick with the river's patience. You blink, wide-eyed, at the thatch above you, at a lizard watching you from the rafters. Your tiny fist closes on nothing and everything. The midwife lifts you, turns you toward the fire, then toward the dark. Then she lowers you to the earth and lets you touch the soil. Only after that do you cry. Your father is called in from the drums. His shoulders are painted with ash and ochre. He kneels beside you, says your first name aloud, and places a small bone charm, a feather from a harpy eagle wrapped in sinew, beside your head. It will not be your last name. You will be called many things as you change. The forest gives no names that stay still. You grow not in weeks, but in moons. Each moon brings new sounds, and each sound a new shape in your understanding. You learn the voice of the howler monkey long before your own. You learn that the wind in the canopy says different things at noon than it does at dusk. You learn that leaves can whisper when no one is near. And when they do, your grandmother clicks her tongue 3 times and throws salt into the fire. There is no word for coincidence. When you are strong enough to sit, you are painted. A red circle on your forehead, to mark your mind open to the forest. A black streak down your spine, to remind your feet of where they came from. You are carried on your sister's hip when she walks to the river to bathe. She tells you that frogs have secrets, that snakes can smell fear, that fireflies are little spirits who forgot their way back to the stars. You believe her. Why wouldn't you? She was born before you. She knows the truth. Your first steps are taken on dirt still warm from the sun. The women watch and clap gently. Your grandmother smears a line of fruit pulp across your chest and says something, under her breath. You don't understand the words, but you know they are important. The fruit is bitter, then sweet, like many things will be. When you fall, because you do, you land not on tears but on laughter. The earth has caught bigger things than you. Later that night, your father places your tiny hand on a carved wooden flute. Wind, he says. It lives here too. You blow into it. No sound comes, but your smile is wide enough to scare away the spiders. On your first birthday, a feast is made. Fish wrapped in leaves and roasted over flame. Manioc ground and soaked. A drink made from fermented fruit that smells sharp but makes the elders sing. Everyone dances. Even your great uncle, whose knees no longer trust him. You are passed from arm to arm, painted again, this time with blue powder made from a crushed beetle, sacred and rare. The drum beats grow fast, then slow, then still. In that stillness a new sound comes, one you've never heard. It's a call, a deep, slow, thrumming horn carved from some beast long vanished from this forest. The children fall silent. An old woman steps forward, dragging a bundle of dried vines. She unwraps it to reveal a mask. White, carved, eyes wide, mouth open, a spirit's face. She lifts it, places it on you. Everyone bows. You do not understand. But in that moment, in that hush, you feel something move behind your ribs. Not fear, not joy, but recognition. As if the forest had been waiting for you to see it, face to face. When the rains come, and they always come, the river overflows its own banks, eager to kiss the roots of trees it hasn't seen in months. The longhouse smells of damp bark and smoked fish. You crawl across woven mats that curl at the edges, chasing insects with bright wings and legs too many to count. You are never alone. There are always hands nearby. Your mother's, your cousins, even your father's when the hunt is done and the spears hang drying above the fire. Storms teach you rhythm before words do. Thunder doesn't frighten you. It sings you to sleep. Lightning dances on your eyelids behind the thick hide of the longhouse roof. And when wind wails like a mourning spirit through the canopy, you listen quietly. Not every cry in the forest is meant for fear. You begin to recognize voices, not just human ones. The red macaw that calls each morning before sunrise. The jaguar, whose cough stops your uncle mid-step. The ants that build their empire beside the Bath Hollow. And the old woman who leaves offerings near their hill, whispering, they remember. You're not sure what ants remember, but the idea that something so small could hold memory makes your heart feel important. By now you have tasted frog leg, crocodile tail, honey scraped from wasp hives, and mushrooms found beneath rotting logs. You've been warned never to eat anything red and alone. Red berries lie, your sister says. They pretend to be fruit. You believe her. Her words smell like truth. You are taught to fear gently, not with punishment, but with stories. A child who stepped into the river without asking permission was pulled by a silver-finned spirit. A boy who hunted too eagerly in mating season returned with a hollow voice. Your dreams are full of vines that move when no one is looking, and trees that open their bark like eyelids. But when you wake, you are warm, and the world hums a lullaby through the leaves. You are afraid, but not alone. That's the difference. One afternoon, while gathering fruit with your mother, you stumble upon a fallen bird, a toucan, its beak too heavy now for its body. Your mother kneels. She murmurs a word, then lifts the bird into her arms and wraps it in a banana leaf. That night, she burns it, not in mourning, but in offering. Nothing dies without becoming, she tells you. You nod, though you're unsure what the bird became. You wonder privately whether you were once a bird too. Your body begins to learn the language of the forest. Your feet stop slipping on moss. You know which leaves are safe to chew and which itch your lips. You no longer cry when a mosquito bites. You crush it between two fingers and paint the blood on your arm like a warrior, even if it's only your blood. Your father sees. He nods once. It means everything. The fire becomes your teacher. It's where stories live. You sit beside it, bare feet curling on the floor, listening to your grandmother tell the tale of the girl who married a serpent and lived beneath the roots of a tree for 100 years. Your uncle says that story is old and tired. She ignores him. Old things last longer, she says. They're tired because they remember more. On your 3rd birthday, you're taken to the river for the naming rite. Not your first name. That one was given by your mother. This name must come from the river, the sky, and the watching spirits. The midwife draws a line across your brow with wet clay. Your family forms a circle around you. The shaman, blind in one eye and with a laugh like dry leaves, chants low and long. He tosses petals into the water, listens to how they drift. After a silence that stretches into stillness, he says your name aloud. It means one who hears the trees. It's longer in your language, but it fits your ears perfectly. Your mother smiles. Your father says nothing but places his palm on your shoulder. The forest says nothing, but the wind rises and a heron lifts off from the bank in a slow, perfect line. You decide this means yes. That night, you are not the same child. Something feels different, heavier, perhaps, but also clearer. Your sister no longer calls you Little Slug. Now she calls you by your new name, the one the river chose. Later, when the fire fades and the drums sleep, you lie beside your mother, listening to the insects, the leaves, the far-off whisper of night birds. You do not know what your future holds, whether you will hunt or heal, climb or carve, lead or vanish. But you do know this. You belong to this place. The forest is not just where you live, it is who you are, and it has begun to whisper back. You learn the river first by touch. It holds you before language, cooler than breath, deeper than sleep. Your mother cups it in her hands and lets it fall across your chest. Know this, she says, it will carry you and kill you. Sometimes both. The river feeds your village just as it sometimes takes. Children who forget to ask permission slip beneath without sound. You don't remember learning to swim, only the taste of water in your mouth, the pressure of a guiding hand on your back, and your sister's laugh just beyond reach. You learned quickly. The river allows no hesitation. Its moods shift with the sky. In the dry months, it shrinks to a warm ribbon between thirsty trees, full of fish and easy secrets. You chase catfish in the shallows, slap their tails with woven nets, and bring them home with pride. In the wet season, it is a beast. Brown, angry, full of things that snap and hiss and do not forgive. You are forbidden from going near it then. You try anyway. One morning you step too close. The bank collapses beneath your heel. In seconds, the current has your waist, then your chest. It pulls you sideways. You swallow water. You scream, but it gurgles. Your sister's hand finds yours. She drags you to shore, eyes wide with fear, arms trembling with effort. She doesn't scold. She just stares until you lower your gaze. That night, your father says nothing, only gives you a reed to chew while he ties a line. The river will teach, he says. It doesn't need words. Later, you understand that discipline in your village is never shouted. It is quiet. It sits in silence beside you. It allows shame to rise like steam. And then it guides you, like the current, to calmer places. Your favorite game is to float on your back, arms wide, eyes to the canopy. You imagine you are a leaf, drifting untethered, belonging to nothing but the sky and the moment. Sometimes your brother joins you, sometimes he doesn't, he is older. He speaks of spears now and of the time he saw a pink dolphin rise from the mist and blink at him like an old man. You have never seen the dolphin, but you believe in it. Not because he swears it, but because the elders do not laugh. They nod. Some spirits wear strange faces, your uncle says, but they speak to those who listen. You spend 3 mornings listening to the fog, hoping. Fishing becomes more than food. It becomes patience. You sit for hours, line between fingers, feet in mud, breath slowed to stillness. When the fish comes, it does so in silence, a twitch, a tug, a ripple, and you must not hurry. Your mother says it's like courting the forest. If you move too fast, she warns, you catch nothing but stories. You learn to recognize the voices of water birds, the high whistle of the kingfisher, the slow croak of the heron. You learn where snakes like to sun and how to step without waking them. You learn that the river has mirrors, deep pockets of stillness where your face stares back too long, too clearly, and you wonder what it sees. Your sister tells you once, every year the river becomes someone new. You don't understand until the next season, when it floods higher than before and swallows the fruit trees. Then you understand. The river changes and you must change with it, just like your name, which now means one who hears the trees and watches the water. You begin to carve your first paddle from a fallen branch. It's rough, uneven, splintered in places. Your grandfather chuckles, then sits beside you and shows how to smooth the grain with stone and spit. A paddle, he says, is not a stick. It is a whisper. It must speak to the river, not shout. At sunset, your village bathes in silence. The elders scrub their arms and hum old songs. Children dive for stones. You sit near the edge, legs in the current, watching a turtle drift past. It does not fear you. You think maybe the river has started to trust you. At night, you dream of water, not drowning, drifting. You float down endless bends, past glowing fish, silent trees, voices in bubbles. When you wake, your skin is cold, your chest is calm, and your sister is already gone, off to gather morning fruit. You look to the river, it looks back, and neither of you are the same. You begin to understand the river is more than water. It is law. It is ancestor. It is the thread that connects every hut, every drumbeat, every scar on your father's back. It marks the boundary between where the spirits speak clearly and where they do not. Some days you follow your uncle upstream in his dugout canoe. He says nothing for the first hour, only shows you where the tree roots curl into drinking hands, where the monkeys leave half-chewed mangoes behind, and where the sky breaks open between the branches. There is a silence upstream that tastes different, older, heavier. When he finally speaks, it's to say, don't just watch the river. Listen to where it remembers. You see things others miss, the pattern in a school of fish turning together like thought. The moment just before a caiman disappears beneath the surface. The trace of oil on the water where something has died, though no body floats. These are the river's words, if you know how to read them. Your village prepares for the dry moon. The days shorten, the heat thickens. Fruit becomes rare. The fish swim deeper. Tensions rise like smoke. You see arguments spark between men who are usually calm. You hear your mother's breath catch when the stores are counted. Hunger never walks alone. It brings worry, suspicion, old stories of spirits who punish greed. Your father sharpens his knife more often. One morning your sister finds an otter pup caught in a root snare. Its leg is twisted, eyes wide with pain. You rush to help, but she holds you back. It's not ours, she says, let the river decide. But the pup's cries echo. By dusk, you return alone and cut the vine. The otter licks your palm, then slips into the water without thanks. That night, your dreams are filled with white fur and whispering leaves. The next morning, the river rises slightly, enough to surprise the elders. Your sister looks at you, says nothing. Later, the shaman calls for silence. He tosses herbs into a fire of wet wood and inhales the smoke until he sways like a reed. He speaks in rhythm. One fed the water. One moved against its law. One heart called and was answered. Everyone looks at one another, but no one speaks. You pretend to watch the flames, but your ears burn. That week, fish return to the nets. A turtle lays eggs beside your home. Your mother says the river is smiling again, but your sister only watches you, eyes narrowed. You notice how much can be carried without words. Guilt, gratitude, wonder. The way your father places his hand on your shoulder after you help mend a net. Longer than necessary, firm but not heavy. The way your grandmother hums to herself when she prepares cassava. The way the river smells different at dusk, like ash and forgiveness. When rain finally comes, it arrives not as a storm, but as a curtain. Slow, steady, warm. You and the other children run naked through it, arms wide. You pretend you are birds gliding between drops. Your sister lets herself laugh again. You think maybe the river has released you both. That evening, the sky bleeds orange over the canopy. You sit at the edge of the village, legs in the water. Your uncle carves another paddle, silent as always. You ask him, does the river forget? He shakes his head. It forgives, but it always remembers. At night, drums sound near the communal fire. Stories are told in rhythm, how the forest once swallowed a man who stole from a snake spirit, how a jaguar danced with a girl beneath a new moon, how a boy was born with gills and vanished into the river, never to return. You ask your grandmother which are true. All of them, she says, and none. The river doesn't care if the story is real, only if it is told. You fall asleep beside the fire, with the hum of crickets and frogs thick in your ears. In your dream, you stand in the middle of the river, arms out, the current flowing through you instead of around you. It feels like belonging. In the morning, you wake before the birds. Your sister is already gone, canoes slicing into the mist. You follow the wet footprints to the water's edge, feel the cool breath of the current, and step in up to your knees. You are no longer just a child floating along the surface. You are the current now, and the river knows your name. It began with silence, too still, too sudden. The forest, usually alive with rustles, calls, and laughter, held its breath. Then came the cry, short, broken, not an animal, not entirely human either. By the time the adults reached the edge of the village, there was nothing left but tracks in the loam and one torn strand of your cousin's necklace tangled in a bush. The earth told the rest, paw prints as wide as a man's hand. No drag marks, no blood, just absence. Your aunt's wail came second, piercing the sky like a hawk's cry. The elders gathered before sunrise, their bodies cloaked in ochre and charcoal. They did not speak of vengeance, only balance. The jaguar takes, your grandmother says, painting thick lines across her cheeks, not out of cruelty, but hunger and law. That morning, your father gives you a task he's never given before. Carve a spear. He places a bone-bladed knife in your palm and nods toward the woodpile. You know better than to ask questions. You work beneath the shade of the banana trees, shaving bark, testing weight, checking grain. Beside you, your sister braids cord for traps. She no longer teases. There's a heaviness in her movements, as if she, too, is watching for eyes in the leaves. When your spear is done, it feels wrong in your hands, foreign, sharp, a thing made not to fish or cook, but to pierce. You dip the tip in fire, just as your uncle taught, until it blackens and hardens. The smell makes your nose sting. At dusk, the village gathers in a circle. No drums tonight, no laughter, only smoke and stillness. The shaman moves like a shadow between them, trailing herbs and soft chants. We do not curse the jaguar, he says. We learn from it. The other boys kneel. You follow. Each is handed charcoal, a sliver of bone, a bead. Mark your spirit, the elder says, so the forest knows who watches back. You smear a line across your brow, a curve beneath your eyes, a dot above your heart. It feels like armor. In the morning, the hunters go into the forest, not to kill, to witness, to speak with the trees and ask if the jaguar will take again. You are not yet allowed to join, but you follow at a distance, barefoot, quiet. You learn their movements, when to pause, how to breathe without sound, how to see not just what's in front, but what's missing. You see where the birds avoid, where the monkeys hush. You find a print, half faded in the mud. Your uncle kneels beside you, presses 2 fingers to it, then to your chest. Still warm, he says, the forest watches. At night, you dream of golden eyes behind leaves, unblinking. You dream of walking without footsteps. You wake with your skin damp and your fingers curled around your spear. One evening, your father brings home a spotted pelt. Not fresh, found abandoned. Maybe a warning, maybe a gift. He hangs it near the fire. The jaguar is not gone, he says, but it has taken its due. You touch the fur. It's coarse, but warm. You wonder if it belonged to the one who took your cousin. You wonder if it matters. The next day, you and the other boys are taken deeper into the forest than ever before. No one speaks. The air is thick with scent, ferns, fungus, something sweet and rotting. You are told to sit alone for the afternoon. No food, no sound. Just wait. If you hear footsteps, the elder says, and no one is there, it is the jaguar. Do not run. It respects those who listen. You sit, the spear across your lap, your breath steady. Every rustle makes your heart stutter. Every snap of twig is a test. You start to notice patterns, the way a bird will flutter 3 times before leaving, the way light hits moss at an angle, the way wind shifts just before something moves. And then, a shadow, just at the edge of your vision. No sound, no threat, a presence. It lingers, then fades. You do not scream. You do not move. When the elder returns, he sees your face. He nods. You saw it. You nod. You didn't run. You nod again. He smiles almost. Then the forest begins to trust you. That night, you sleep beside the fire, the jaguar's pelt now folded beneath your head. You do not dream of golden eyes. You dream of moving through trees without fear. You are still a child, but the forest has begun to speak to you, and you have begun to answer. The jaguar does not return, not to the edge of the village at least, but its absence is not silence. It echoes differently now, in the way people move more carefully, speak more softly, tend their fires with a watchful eye. You are expected to carry your spear daily now, not in play, in habit. Its weight becomes part of your balance, like your own arm grown longer, sharper. When you fish, it leans beside you. When you walk to the banana grove, it rests across your back. At night, it lies beside your sleeping mat like a dog with no bark. Your sister begins training too, not with spears yet, but with slings, with nets, with cords that can bind or trip. She is faster than you, smarter sometimes. She can follow a trail across water while you still lose scent in the ferns. But the elders say you're a good match. They let you train together. They nod when they see her throw, and you catch without flinching. She laughs more now, not like before, not wild and carefree, but clear, purposeful. He's still watching, she says one day, gesturing toward the trees. The jaguar. He's waiting to see if we remember. You nod. You both do. In the days that follow, the lessons shift. Less about fear, more about understanding. Your uncle brings you to a tree marked with claw lines, high and deep. He was here, he says. Marking what is his, you must learn to mark your space too. He teaches you how to carve signs into bark, not for others to read, but for the spirits, for the ancestors. Small lines, subtle swirls, so they know you were here, so the forest remembers you when your body returns to the dirt. You begin carving everywhere you go, not big, not boastful, just a line here, a symbol there, on a stone near the river, on the base of your sleeping mat, on the wood of your spear. You do it without thinking now. It becomes a rhythm. One afternoon, the elders gather you and the other boys again. It is time, they say, to learn how to follow. You don't understand. We do not hunt the jaguar, your father explains, but we follow him to learn his path, to understand how he moves, why he chooses, what he fears. So you go deeper still into the forest. This time, there are no drums to guide you back. Only marks, your own, and those the elders leave for those who come behind. You sleep under woven leaves. You eat what grows close to the earth. You drink from vines and shade your eyes from spiders the size of your fist. Each morning you sweep the earth near your camp and check for prints. Most nights, there are none. But one morning, just as the sky begins to lighten, you find it. A print. Not large, but fresh. The dew hasn't yet gathered inside it. You call your father with a whisper. He studies it. Then he points ahead, into a gully of vines and stone. You follow, for hours. Not a word is spoken, just signs, scratches on bark, droppings near roots, birds who stop singing when you pass. Your father's finger lifts again and again, guiding your eyes to the subtle, and then the sound. A low breath, not a growl, not a hiss, a breath, full, deep, slow. You freeze. You feel it in your stomach before you see anything. A glint, 2 eyes, far enough not to strike, close enough to kill. Your father lifts his hand, palm forward, a greeting, not a threat. The jaguar blinks. Your father bows. You do too, slowly, never looking away. When you rise, the beast is gone. Not a sound made. No leaf disturbed. Just absence again. You walk back in silence. At camp, no one asks what you saw. But when your father lights the fire, he uses 3 stones instead of 2. Everyone sees, everyone understands. That night there is singing. Not loud, not celebratory. A hum beneath the stars, the kind that invites rather than boasts. Your sister brings you a cooked yam and says nothing, but she hands you a fresh feather to place in your hair. A dark one. Not black, not brown. A shade between. You tuck it behind your ear. You sleep without dreams. In the morning, the shaman marks your arm with dye. 1 swirl, 1 point. Jaguar didn't strike, he says. Means you listened. Means you were worthy of seeing. You touch the mark as it dries. You don't feel proud. You feel responsible. The jaguar doesn't apologize. It never needed to. It's not cruel. It's not kind. It's a lesson, and now you carry it. The first sign is smoke. Not the pale threads of cooking fires, but thick blue columns rising beyond the banana grove. Not alarm, not danger, ceremony. Then comes the drum. Not your rhythm, not your beat, but steady, confident. A message in wood and skin. We are near, we come in peace. You remember this rhythm. Once, years ago, a similar pulse came from the south and brought barter. Beads for cassava, bone hooks for salted fish. But that tribe was older, quieter. This one thunders. By the time the sun lowers, the whole village is gathered at the clearing's edge. Your mother smooths ash across her forehead. Your father dons the jaguar tooth necklace. Your sister grins and nudges your elbow. Try not to trip, she whispers. The dancers emerge in a line, their ankles wrapped in seed pods, their chests streaked with red clay and charcoal. Their leader wears a headdress made not from feathers but from the peeled bark of some tree you've never seen. He walks with a rhythm that makes the earth feel older than it is. Then she steps into view, not first, not last, somewhere in the center. She wears blue feathers in her braids and dark paint beneath her eyes. Her steps are sure, but her gaze darts, measuring, questioning. She sees you, not a glance, a look, then she moves on. You try not to stare. They reach the center of the clearing. Drums cease. Silence stretches. Then the elder from your tribe steps forward and lifts a gourd filled with water. A sip. Then he pours it on the ground. The other elder mirrors him. The drums begin again. Now comes the welcome dance. Open palms, circular steps. Children laugh and chase the beat. You join, not to impress, just to move. But your feet feel heavy, unsure. You're too aware of your elbows, your breath, the ache in your right heel. Then, out of nowhere, she's beside you. Not speaking, just dancing. She matches your awkward steps with ease, like she's always known your rhythm, like your hesitation is a dialect she already speaks. You don't say a word. You both move around the fire. Your sister catches your eye and smirks. You almost trip, proving her prophecy. She laughs. The girl with the feathers. A real laugh. Short, sudden, wild. It knocks something loose in your chest. Later, when the food is shared, you sit close but not touching. She tears strips of roasted plantain and offers one without looking. You accept. The warmth lingers on your tongue. Your father speaks with her elder. Your sister teaches a boy from their group how to braid reeds. The clearing is filled with noise, and yet, beside her, you feel a quiet forming. A silence shaped like curiosity. She points to your spear, then to the jaguar mark on your arm. You nod. She draws a symbol in the dirt, a cat with too many legs. You raise your eyebrows. Dream cat, she says. Her voice is rougher than you expect, older than her face. You draw a question with your hands. Mine, she says. It comes before storms, always watching. She doesn't ask about your dream animal. She simply waits. You don't speak of the jaguar. Instead, you show her how you draw the river's shape on your skin before sleep. She nods as if she's done the same. You've never met, but this feels familiar. Night deepens. The elders begin their chant. Visitors and villagers alike join the long, low song of arrival and respect. But you and she remain seated, listening. Your elbows brush. Once, then again. A bird cries in the distance. The moon slips behind a cloud. Firelight flickers. She stands. Tomorrow, she says. You nod. But you don't know what she means. Tomorrow she will dance again, or leave, or speak more, or not. She steps into the shadows with the rest of her people, their forms blurring into the forest. Your sister sits beside you and bumps your knee. That was fast, she whispers. You say nothing. You stay there by the dying fire until even the embers give up. You don't sleep well. Not from fear. From too many images, braids, feathers, that laugh. In the morning, the clearing smells like yucca and ash. The drums have quieted. Only the occasional rattle remains, someone practicing perhaps, or remembering. You scan the trees, no feathers, no blue, no bark headdress. They are still here, but not present. Preparing, maybe, or waiting. You find yourself hoping the dance repeats, because something in you is echoing now. And it's not a rhythm you recognize. The second night is quieter, not because the drums are softer, but because your ears have adjusted. The rhythm no longer startles. It welcomes. You know it now. She dances again, but differently, slower, arms outstretched. The whole visiting tribe moves like wind in the canopy, like vines tugged by invisible hands. They're telling a story. You can feel it even if you don't know the words. Your sister whispers, "This is the hunt." You nod. The hunters prowl, the prey flees, the spears rise, but no one strikes. Instead, all pause and bow. Respect. Always. When it ends, there's no applause, just silence. The respectful kind. The kind you'd hear after a storm passed without breaking anything. You want to speak to her again, to ask what the story meant, to ask what her dream cat has done since. But the evening moves fast. Elders exchange bundles, bark cloth for obsidian blades, seeds for fish oil. Your father haggles in quiet tones. She is near the fire again, helping an elder with a water pot. You hover nearby, pretending to study a carved bone talisman. She sees you. You don't speak. She doesn't either. Instead, she lifts her chin and walks toward the river. A glance behind her. You follow. The forest muffles the sound of drums until only their echo reaches you. Thump, thump, thump. The moonlight catches on the water. Fireflies gather between roots and reeds. You walk in silence until the path disappears and only the river is ahead. She sits on a flat stone. You sit beside her. The current moves slow tonight, lazy. She drops a pebble in. This river meets mine, far away. You nod. Same water, different trees. You don't know what to say. She hands you a fruit, sour pulp, purple skin. Taste. You bite. It burns a little, then sweetens. She watches your face, smirks. First time always hurts. You laugh. It's awkward, but real. Then she says, "We leave at sunrise." The sentence folds into the night like smoke. You look down. The water reflects only sky now. "I'll return," she adds, "if your moon still rises crooked." You glance up. The moon tonight does hang at a strange tilt, like a bowl about to spill. She brushes your arm once with the back of her hand, then stands. The moment stretches, then snaps. She's already walking. You remain. The night wraps around you, not cold, but close. You hear frogs, insects, your own breath. You remember how she moved, how she laughed, how she didn't ask questions but answered anyway. You walk home slowly. At the edge of the clearing, the drums have stopped. Only embers glow. You slip into your hammock, your body tired, your mind still walking by the river. In the morning, they're gone. No footprints, no leftover fire, just flattened grass and the smell of strange wood smoke. Your sister says she took your laugh with her. You grin, but it fades fast. Because something is missing. Or maybe not missing, just changed. You help your father strip bark. You help your mother mix paste for repelling insects. The day is normal, but your hands move differently now, like they remember a dance. That night, the moon is tilted again. A sign, or just the sky being sky. Weeks pass. You return to the river often, not waiting, just visiting. You carve shapes into driftwood and let them float. Sometimes you hum a tune you don't remember learning. Once your sister catches you drawing feathers in the dirt. She says nothing. She knows. Later in the season, during a lightning storm, a tree falls near the village. No one is hurt, but it crushes the old food store. Your people gather to rebuild. You work hard, grateful for the distraction. But even then you pause. You glance at the river. You wonder which tree she's sitting beneath now. If her tribe chants the same thunder prayers. And when the first blue feather appears, caught in the thatch of your roof, you don't tell anyone. You just smile, not because she's returned, but because something did. And that is enough for now. You are 13 when the first whispers come. They arrive like wind behind fog, shifty half-truths that slip between fish baskets and fire pits. A hunting party returns early. No meat, no cheer, just wide eyes and muttered stories. Men made of bone, shouting metal, eyes the colour of river foam. You don't know what to make of it. No one does. The elders say little. They pass glances like torches in a storm. That night, a fire is lit at the edge of the clearing. Larger than usual, hotter than needed. You think it's a mistake until you notice who's not there. The elders. They are sitting by the fire alone. Not eating, not speaking, only listening. To the forest. A branch snaps far off. An owl stirs too early. And then nothing. It is the quiet that tells you everything. Later, your uncle returns from a scouting path. He says only one word. Boot prints. Not bare soles, not hide sandals, but deep, wide marks. Repeating. Flat. He draws the shape in the dust, unlike anything you've seen. Not the light step of a dancer, not the sure heel of a hunter, just an imprint, like the foot belonged to something heavy or heartless. You don't sleep that night. By morning, patrols are organized. You're not invited. Too young, your father says. But you see how he sharpens his spear differently now. Slower, like the blade needs convincing. You ask your mother what bone men means. She doesn't answer at first. Then she says, a word for strangers when no better word exists. You want more. But she's already standing, already gone, already burying questions under work. Later, while fetching water, you see smoke, thin, upriver, a streak in the sky like a brushstroke dipped in war. You don't tell anyone, not yet. You walk back slowly, memorizing how it moved. It didn't spiral like a cooking fire as it rose straight, hungry. When you reach camp, your sister is weaving rope. She looks up once. You nod slightly. She says nothing but stops weaving. Some news travels in silence. The elders call a circle after dark. You've never seen them all together like this, not even for funerals or storms. Your father allows you to sit behind him, not in the circle, but near enough. A man named Toma speaks first. He's old, slow, but his voice still cracks like dry wood. He says the smoke is from a group building shelters near the river's mouth. He says they brought boats that eat the current and spit fire. He says one man wore a shirt made of metal leaves. Another carried thunder in a stick. Your mind fills the gaps. Are they gods? Beasts? Cursed? Someone asks the question aloud. Toma answers, no, just men, but men who forgot what it means to listen. That's worse somehow. The next day everyone is busy, but no one works. Baskets are carried without direction, arrows fletched twice, then discarded, songs started, then swallowed. Your world, once full of rhythm and repetition, now stumbles like a drumbeat out of sync. You find your sister at the fishing bank. She's watching the current instead of setting nets. Will they come? You ask. She doesn't answer. Then, when a log floats too fast, we don't chase it. We wait. We listen. We feel what the river tells us. You nod. But the river today is silent. Too silent. One of the elders leaves a marking near the main path, a jaguar's claw painted in ash and berry. It means danger. It means prepare. It means do not ask questions you don't want answered. You go to bed early, but sleep late. Dreams tangle. Men with tree bark skin walk through flame. Your cousin calls out, but he has no mouth. A canoe made of smoke tips over and vanishes into the stars. You wake before dawn, heart racing, and then you hear it. Not drums, not wind, but something else. A low hum. Not animal, not natural. Like wood groaning under weight it was never meant to carry. You slip outside. Your uncle is already there, crouched in the dark, listening. He doesn't turn when he says it's a boat, a big one. You ask how he knows. He says the river breathes differently when it's afraid. And you believe him. By midday, the village becomes a different place. Women grind cassava without speaking. The children are kept close, not sent to the river as usual. Even the parrots in the canopy seem to hush themselves. Your father sharpens his spear again, but now he oils the shaft with tree resin, muttering words under his breath, half prayer, half memory. When a hawk cries overhead, no one looks up. You all look inward. The elder Toma returns from the river bend with 5 others. He's covered in sweat, chest heaving. In his hand is a strip of fabric, woven, not braided, dyed red, stiff with something darker than berry. Blood, someone whispers. Toma nods once. Not ours. But that doesn't make you feel safer. A council forms. You and your sister watch from the side as the warriors debate. Hide or confront. Wait or warn other villages. Your cousin, barely older than you, says, "We should strike first. Show them what happens when strangers cross into Spirit Land." Your father replies, "And bring their fire here?" The council falls silent. They all know the stories. You've heard them too, from a trader who passed through seasons ago, eyes hollow as burned gourds. He spoke of a place far beyond the horizon, where people vanished and trees never regrew. A place where metal teeth bit into land and left only scars. No one believed him, not fully. Now they remember every word. That night, the elders make a decision. No action, only observation. They send out 3 scouts, not warriors, listeners. Your uncle is one of them. Before leaving, he kneels beside you and says, "Listen more than you speak. If I return, I'll teach you how." You nod, though your throat is dry. His hand is rough when it touches your head. Then he vanishes into the trees, quiet as smoke. Days pass, the forest holds its breath. Bird song returns, but it feels rehearsed. Too bright, too brittle. Every sound cracks like a lie. You try to return to routine, fishing, weaving, walking the narrow paths between huts. But everything is tinted with a second colour now, a layer of awareness. The crunch of a twig behind you is no longer ignored. The rustle of leaves might mean more than wind. You do not dream, or if you do, the dreams vanish before dawn. You help mend a broken canoe one afternoon. Your sister braids reed into rope beside you. She hums to herself, a tune your mother used to sing while mixing herbs. You find comfort in that sound, but it also makes your chest tighten, because you know that songs are sung when people need strength. And the forest is asking for strength now. On the 5th morning, your uncle returns, alone. His eyes are rimmed in smoke. His hair smells of salt and fear. He says nothing at first, only drinks deeply from a calabash of river water. Then he speaks. "They built walls," he says, "but not from wood, from stone and metal." The elders lean in. They cut trees like slicing roots from a fruit, left them in piles, burned some. He pauses. They wear skins not their own. They trap light in tubes, and they point these tubes like weapons. Toma frowns. What do they want? Your uncle answers, "They don't look hungry. Not for food." The elders fall into deep silence. You sense that their silence is not confusion, but memory. Old stories, older than your grandmother's oldest tales, are surfacing. Stories about spirits that come dressed like men but speak like gods, who take more than they give, who bring smoke that does not rise, but spreads. You sit by the fire that night, listening to its crackle. You can't stop thinking about the tubes your uncle described. Light trapped inside, pointed like spears. You ask your father, can light be a weapon? He nods slowly. Even the sun burns when you stand too long beneath it. You do not sleep much. In the morning, the sky is pink with dew when a drum sounds, 3 beats, then silence. The signal for gathering. Thomas stands by the fire again. He holds a bowl of river clay and marks a line across his chest. From this day, he says, we watch them like jaguars. He turns to the scouts. No contact, no noise, only eyes, only memory. Then he looks at you, really looks at you as if seeing your bones. He says, children will learn the old signs again, the meanings in bird flight, the way leaves talk when stepped on. You feel something shift inside you, like a path has appeared beneath your feet that wasn't there before. You are no longer just a child. You are a watcher now. You carry the eyes of your ancestors, and the forest is no longer only your home. It is your responsibility. It begins with sound, not flame. A strange thunder that rolls through the forest even though the sky is clear. You stop what you're doing, carving a hook for your sister's fishing line, and look up. Birds rise in a sudden flurry, too many at once, wings beating panic into the morning air. Then comes the smell. Not smoke from cooking fires or burnt wood from ritual cleansing. This is bitter, metallic. It coats your tongue before it reaches your nose, and when you finally see it, black fingers curling above the canopy, it is already too late for that part of the forest. The first tree falls not from wind or rot, but from something louder than either. A shattering crack, then another. You run toward the edge of the clearing, where your father and 3 others stand, mouths tight, spears idle. There in the far distance, through gaps in the trees, you glimpse it. Fire, but not dancing, marching, flames in lines, flames guided by something unseen. You want to ask what's burning, but the question feels too small. That night, no one speaks around the fire. Your mother does not hum while stirring roots. Your father doesn't recount stories. Even the crickets seem quieter, as if uncertain whether this night deserves music. Your uncle hasn't returned. He'd gone east 3 days ago to scout the river's bend, where the strangers had been seen last. He should be back. He is not, and no one dares say why. The next day, scouts return with news. Not words, just a bundle of leaves bound in a way that means danger. Inside, one broken arrowhead made of metal, still warm when unwrapped. The elders gather. You sit close enough to hear whispers, but far enough to not be noticed. They are burning to clear space, one man says, not just trees, paths, roads. Like termites, someone mutters. Consuming, not living. But there are no solutions, only warnings. Stay hidden, move camp if needed, prepare. You ask your mother what it means to prepare. She doesn't answer. On the 3rd day your uncle returns, but not in the way you hoped. 2 young men from the village carry him between them, his hands bound, wrists bleeding. His eyes are open but don't focus. There's a mark on his chest, a brand you do not recognize. He was caught, watched, beaten, branded, but they let him go. Why? He cannot say. Not yet. Later the healer rubs his back with ash paste, whispers songs of unbinding. But your uncle stares only at the roof. When your father asks what he saw, he speaks slowly. They build from stone, he says, but their eyes are colder. Then, quieter. One spoke my name before I gave it. You don't understand. Not fully. But you feel something break inside the circle that night. Something sacred. That evening, your mother gathers your family and begins to pack small bundles. Seeds, dried meat, flint, feathers. You ask her, are we leaving? She says, we are remembering how. It's not just a flight. It's a return to the way the ancestors lived. Light, mobile, ready. The trees are no longer shelter. Not all of them. Some may betray you now, fall in unnatural ways, crack with unfamiliar sound, carry footprints not your own. Even the river seems unsure of its direction. You try to find comfort. You sit with your sister and play with clay, shaping it into animals. But the jaguar looks strange now. Too small, too fragile. You crush it back into a lump. You return to the spot where you caught your first fish. But there's an oily sheen on the water that wasn't there before. At night, the stars still shine, but they feel farther away. Then, one morning, as the mist lifts, you hear it. Low, rhythmic, unnatural. You and your father climb to the canopy using ropes tied from vine. And then you see them. A line of men with metal skins marching in perfect rhythm, slicing the jungle with each step. They carry long wooden sticks, too smooth to be spears, too quiet to be tools. One man turns and coughs smoke from his mouth. Your father grips your shoulder. They are not gods, he whispers, but they believe they are. You don't understand everything, but you understand enough. The world has cracked open, and something has begun to crawl through. Your uncle stops sleeping. He lies down at night but does not close his eyes. He stares through the roof of the shelter as if trying to see through the sky itself. When you ask your father what is wrong, he only says, some things don't return whole. You do not press further, but you begin to understand. Every night the forest is still, but he hears footsteps. Every time the wind shifts, he sniffs the air like an animal expecting a trap. He jumps at the crack of a stick, winces at firelight. He has carried something home with him, and it is heavier than any chain. The elders meet more often now, and their voices grow sharper. One argues for retreating deeper into the jungle beyond the western ridges. Another claims the spirits will be angered if the people leave their sacred grove. A third wants to build defenses, sharpen stakes, dig pits. But always their discussions return to the same question. What do they want? No one knows. The metal men speak few words, and when they do, their voices sound like commands even when asking for food. Some offer trinkets, beads, tiny mirrors, scraps of dyed cloth. Others arrive only to take. They mark trees with symbols and return later to cut them down. They fish in the river without asking. They do not bow at sacred stones. Your people have long known visitors, other tribes with strange ways and painted faces, some with war in their eyes, others with dance in their step. But this is different. This isn't a visitor. It is a wave. And it doesn't stop to ask which rocks it crashes on. You see it most clearly when a group of hunters return without arrows. They had traded their entire quiver for a blade of polished steel, a thing that gleams like moonlight but cuts like anger. One holds it out proudly. It never dulls, he says. It eats bark like nothing we've known. But the elders look away. One mutters, "And what did you give?" The man shrugs. "Just some feathers and a girl to help carry their packs." The silence that follows is louder than drums. Not long after, that same man is found curled beneath a tree, bleeding from a wound no one can explain. He says nothing, only gasps. When he dies, the steel blade is buried with him, not as an honor, but as a warning. You begin to dream of fire. Not the warm hearth flames of your mother's songs, but wild, devouring fire. It eats trees like they're dry leaves. In your dreams, the birds fly in reverse, the river turns black, and a voice you don't know says your name in a language you can't understand. You wake with sweat on your chest and a tightness in your throat. Your sister doesn't dream. She watches. She sits near your mother and braids long vines into cords, learning how to bind things together, how to carry weight across the shoulder without bruising. When the new moon comes, she paints her face for the first time in morning colors. Not for someone dead, but for what's being lost, little by little, branch by branch. Then one day, without warning, the strangers return. But this time, they do not stay distant. They walk into the edge of the village as if it were theirs. Their boots stamp down shoots of cassava. Their eyes sweep across huts without recognition. A young man raises his hand to ask who they are, and he is struck with the flat of a blade before he can speak. There is no battle, just fear, and the sudden knowledge that power doesn't always need to raise its voice. They leave after taking sacks of grain and 2 boys who didn't run fast enough. One is your cousin. You chase them until your lungs ache, until your father tackles you into the underbrush and clamps a hand over your mouth. You watch from a tangle of vines as the men vanish into the jungle, and the boys with them. Your cousin does not scream. He looks back once, expression unreadable, and then he is gone. That night, your uncle finally speaks again. His voice is hoarse and shaking. They will keep coming, he says, like a sickness that forgets to stop. No one answers. There is nothing left to say. You begin helping your father dig caches into the earth, places to hide food, tools, names. You learn which routes store longest, which paths carry least scent. You stop asking when the forest will return to what it was. You understand now. It won't. Not in your time, not in your children's time, but still. When the next morning comes and the parrots call from high branches, and your sister hands you a fishing spear, and your mother hums again, just a note, brief and soft. You feel something stir in your chest. The world has changed, but you have not yet bowed to it. You begin with mud. Not the soft clay from the riverbank, but the gritty kind you mix with crushed charcoal and sap. Your uncle shows you how to smear it over your skin, dulling your scent, your shape, your shine. He does it in silence, not as a lesson, but as a rite. In the jungle now, the air hums with tension. Every rustle could be a predator. Every footprint could mean death. So you stop leaving them. You walk with the sides of your feet. You learn which vines spring back and which stay where you bend them. You learn to breathe through your mouth and hum with the insects. Not to mask your presence, but to blend into theirs. Your father leads you into the deeper forest. Places you've never been, places older than stories. There, he shows you a tree whose bark smells like pepper. This one, he says, will confuse dogs. Another has tiny red ants with bites that smell like citrus and sting like memory. You collect a handful of their nests carefully, placing them into carved gourds. Not for revenge, for defense. The rules are different now. Hiding is no longer shame. It is strategy. It is resistance. You learn how to vanish without running, to stand still beneath layered fronds while a man in armor passes within a spear's length. Your heart pounds in your ears, but your breath stays shallow even. The metal men don't look up. They never do. You learn the art of the false path, dragging a broken sandal across sand, looping it back over moss, leading enemies to dead ends or into wasp nests. You mark the trees not with cuts, but with knotted grass and twisted vines, signals the invaders won't see. Your cousin, the one whose mother was taken, shows you how to braid a trap from river reeds. One morning a soldier walks straight into one, and his shouts echo across the trees. You do not cheer, you do not dance. You watch from above as he's dragged away by others. They do not return. At night, the forest holds you like a mother. You sleep in high places now, hammocks between branches wrapped in mosquito netting. You whisper to the owls, you wake at the sound of frogs. Your sister sleeps beside you, her hair tied in a warrior's knot now, a knife beneath her mat. No one calls you child anymore. Not after what happened last moon. You had spotted a column of smoke too close to the sacred grove, slipped away from the gathering and followed it, barefoot and silent. You saw 3 men in armor laughing beside a fire, their rifles leaning against a log. You didn't strike, you didn't shout. You waited until night, then returned with your cousin and the trapmaker. In the dark, no one needs words. It was over quickly. One blade, one pit, one scream swallowed by trees. And you? You placed a smear of red clay across your own face, not in joy, not in pride, but in understanding. This is what survival asks. Not always a spear. Sometimes a stillness so complete that the forest forgets you're even there. In time, others begin coming to you. Children whose homes are gone. Old women with stories to preserve. You guide them, not through authority, but through trust. You show them where the roots grow fattest. You show them how to listen with their feet. You show them how to disappear. Because now, to be invisible is to be invincible. One evening, your mother calls you aside. Her voice is soft. You are walking the path of the jaguar, she says, silent, alone, strong. You nod, but she sees the doubt in your eyes. She touches your forehead. But even the jaguar returns to drink with others. Do not forget that, my child. And you don't. You make maps in your mind, not of rivers or trails, but of people. Where they hide, what they need, who still believes in morning. You become a messenger, a shadow that moves between pockets of resistance like a whispered prayer. You carry news, seeds, laughter, medicine. In this way, you become more than a ghost. You become a thread, invisible, but holding the fabric together. And when one night a boy no older than your sister collapses outside your camp, breathless, wounded, you carry him on your back without question. He brings word of a village burned to nothing, of elders slaughtered, of children taken, and of a new plan forming, a way to strike not from fear, but from fire. He sleeps beneath your blanket. You watch over him, your hands gripping the hilt of your father's old blade. The jungle breathes. You breathe with it. And tomorrow you will move again, not to flee, but to return. You rise before the parrot's call. The dew clings to your arms like soft armor, the air still heavy with the breath of night. Beneath your feet, the forest floor speaks in creaks and hushes, welcoming you back into its hidden folds. Beside you, the boy you carried still sleeps, though his face is more at ease than yesterday. You do not wake him. Healing, too, is a form of resistance. This morning, you go to the stone that weeps, a place deep in the trees where water trickles from moss-covered rock. Here, the elders say, the forest remembers. You kneel, fill a gourd, and pour 3 slow drops onto the earth. For the lost, for the living, for the fight still to come. Then you rise. The new plan moves not like thunder, but like root. It spreads quietly beneath the surface. Each clan that remains is to send 1 runner, 1 fire-bearer. You are chosen for your people, not because you're the strongest, but because you listen when others do not. Your ears hold more than your mouth, and your steps leave little behind. You travel alone at first. Each day a lesson in silence. Each night a test of trust. Not every path leads through safe lands. Not every bird call is bird. Once you freeze for an hour beneath a thicket as 3 foreign scouts pass. Rifles slung lazy over shoulders, their laughter sharp like broken shells. One drops a silver coin. You wait until they're long gone before touching it. It burns colder than riverstone. You leave it in the dirt. Eventually you find the others. They wait in a hollow beside a fallen saber tree, each marked by different dyes, feathers, tattoos. You greet one another with glances, subtle hand signs. There are 8 of you. You speak 20 languages between you, but today you speak none. You eat the same roots, chew the same bitter leaves to sharpen your senses. You lie in hammocks strung like spider silk between high branches. Together you become a single shadow stretched across the forest. You return to your village after 12 days, changed. The boy you carried is now learning to trap birds with whisper thread. Your sister has painted new sigils along the hut poles. Your mother has begun singing again, quiet, low songs that hum in your bones while you sleep. The old warriors nod when they pass you. You nod back, but you do not rest long. The next phase needs you. You begin building what the elders call false faces, clever signs and fake trails meant to trick, to confuse, to stall. You dig holes that look like natural wells. You smear honey to lure fire ants into boots left behind. You build lookout points in the canopy, connected by vines you can climb blindfolded. And then comes the most dangerous task of all, entering their dreams. Not with magic, but with symbols. You begin painting on trees images they will stumble across, a skull wrapped in vines, a bird holding a broken musket, a sun swallowed by jungle. You place them where their scouts will pass, just out of reach but too near to ignore. Some return with torches, others with silence, all return afraid. It's working. Fear, you've learned, is a tool sharper than stone. You use it wisely. That same moon, the firebearers return with a secret. The invaders are preparing a road, one wide enough to split the forest in 2. A road for carts, for cannons. You know this cannot be allowed. The path is not just wood and dirt, it is a promise of permanent harm. So your village prepares a new kind of ambush, not to destroy the road, but to erase it before it begins. You move at night, spreading seeds that grow vines strong enough to crack stone, calling forth insects that devour wood, diverting streams to flood low points in the path. And when workers arrive with axes and saws, they find only silence and footprints that lead in circles. They call it cursed. They leave. You do not cheer, you do not gloat. You return home, rinse your hands in the river, and sit beside your mother. She offers you roasted plantain. You eat in silence, watching your sister spin thread by firelight. The boy you rescued is singing to a baby capybara. For a moment, the world feels possible again. That night, your father returns from a scouting mission with a wounded leg and a wide grin. They speak of ghosts in the east, he says, of warriors that vanish, of trees that whisper in tongues they cannot follow. You smile softly, because the jungle is not haunted, it is awake. And so are you. Tomorrow you will teach the next child how to walk without sound. You will teach them the song of leaves against skin, the power of watching instead of acting, the beauty of surviving not as an accident, but as defiance. You are not hidden anymore. You are the forest now, and the forest remembers. He came with the smoke. Not in a soldier's uniform, nor strapped with weapons, just a boy, no older than your cousin, with hair like river straw and skin the colour of moonlight on stone. You found him at the edge of the clearing, alone, crying softly behind a burnt trunk, clutching a leather pouch and shivering as if the air were knives. At first, no one moved. The older warriors thought he might be bait, a trick, a spy, a sick offering from people who believed even children could be currency in war. Your father stared at the boy's feet, bare, blistered, swollen. No lie could craft those wounds. Your sister was the first to step forward. She held out half a guava, her posture careful, her eyes low. The boy flinched, whimpered something in a broken tongue, then snatched the fruit and devoured it with trembling hands. He did not thank her. He simply wept into the juice running down his chin. That night, the elders argued. Half said to leave him to the forest. Half said to give him a mat and watch for signs. Your mother said nothing, just placed a pot of cassava near the boy as he curled beneath a tree. At dawn, the pot was empty. His tears had stopped. They let him stay. For a while he didn't speak, not in words you could understand anyway. But he watched. Everything. The way your people wove fish traps from vines, how you walked on wet stones without slipping, how you washed wounds with boiled leaves and sang to the river when a canoe tipped over. You watched him too. He moved like someone expecting to be struck. He winced at laughter, shrank from drums, and never once touched the ground with his palms. When your sister gave him berries, he blinked twice before eating. When your uncle tried to offer him a carved wooden bird, the boy backed away, clutching his pouch as if it held his breath. One day, curiosity overtook caution. While he bathed in the stream, you crept to the tree where he kept his pouch. Inside, a cracked compass with rusted edges, a scrap of paper with a map drawn in hasty black lines, and a small cloth stained with dried blood, and nothing magical, nothing dangerous. But when he returned and saw your hands near his things, his eyes filled with fire. He screamed, not with volume, but with fury. You did not understand his words, but you understood his fear. It was the same fear you had felt when soldiers first came, the fear of something bigger than you that speaks in noise and takes without warning. You left his pouch untouched after that. In time, he began to mimic. He followed your brother when fishing. He copied your posture during meals. He asked your sister the names of herbs, tapping his chest and repeating after her. His words were crooked, strange, but eager. When he said capybara, everyone laughed. He grinned, wide and unsure. But you noticed something else too. He always looked up. While you listened to leaves and followed the bend of roots, he stared at clouds, at the birds, at the strange patterns the stars made above the canopy. One night, while lying on the ground, he pointed to the sky and said, "Home." Then he pointed to his chest. Lost. You didn't know what to say. So you touched the dirt and said your name. Then pointed to your chest. Then pointed to the trees. He didn't answer. Just nodded slowly, tears at the edge of his lashes. He stayed. Seasons shifted. He learned to swim the Crooked Branch River without fear. He joined when the hunters painted their faces, his pale skin awkward beneath the red dye. He carried firewood, roasted fish, helped repair a canoe with sap and cloth. He laughed more, slept sounder, started to run, barefoot and sure like he'd never known boots. But still, sometimes he would open that pouch and stare into the compass. The needle twitched, indecisive, like it no longer knew where north belonged. You began to understand. He was not lost from a place. He was lost from meaning. The forest taught you long ago that names can change, but roots are still roots. Maybe he just needed time to grow his. One morning he tapped your shoulder and handed you something. A rough carving, not perfect, not even good, of your tribe's guardian bird, the one you often etched into bark. Its wings were uneven, and one eye was too large, but it was clearly meant for you. You took it. You said nothing. But you smiled. When the rains came heavy, the boy helped patch the roof with leaves. Not because he was asked, he had simply learned. Your father watched in silence, then nodded once. It was the closest thing to welcome the boy had yet received. That nod meant he was no longer watched. He was now seen. You gave him a name. Not the one from before, not the one his people had called him. You chose Tikau, after a type of vine that grows sideways, finding new ground when its path is blocked. He liked the sound of it. He said it again and again. Tikau. With a smile so wide your sister said it could hold sunlight. From then on, he was Tikau. He stopped hiding the compass. He wore it on a loop around his neck, not as a tool, but as a memory. Something broken and old, yet still trying to point somewhere. One day, the elders held a gathering. The stars had moved, and the hunters spoke of new trails. There were talks of moving deeper upriver. Strangers with fire rods had burned a village 3 days down. It was no longer safe to remain close to the banks. Tikau sat among you, silent. He understood only some of the words, but he could read the worry in everyone's faces. He tapped the compass once, looked at the river, then at your mother, and finally at the trees behind you. He did not cry. Instead, he asked to stay. The decision wasn't easy. Some still feared he might carry curses, or worse, maps. But your mother said if he was meant to lead them, he would have gone already. And that ended the discussion. He was one of you. He joined in the migration, helped lash baskets shut and carry grain. When the canoe tipped and your cousins slipped into the water, it was Tikau who leapt without thinking, dragging the boy back to shore. No hesitation, no pause. He had become reflex. The new village was smaller, deeper in the trees where sunlight touched the earth only in speckles. Here the jungle grew tighter, darker, more sacred. The elders poured blessings into the earth. Your sister sang every morning. Tikau carved. At first birds, then monkeys, then once, without knowing, He shaped a jaguar. You found it beside the fire one night, watching you with wooden eyes. Takao shrugged. Forest dream, he said. It was the first time he'd spoken of dreams. And then, one day, something strange happened. A bird flew overhead, not a jungle bird, but one of metal. A shape from the world beyond the trees, buzzing like 1,000 bees, casting a shadow that did not belong to any season. It passed quickly, but Takao saw it, and he froze. That night, he took out the compass again. He did not look at it. He stared into the fire, the red glow dancing across his skin. "I remember," he whispered. "You didn't ask what. He told you anyway." There was a house, a room with walls that did not breathe, a woman with soft hands, a man who shouted when he spilled things, then the trees, then the fire, then nothing, until fruit and silence and the girl who gave him a name. You listened, not to the words, they came out broken and strange, but to the feeling behind them. He asked, "Do I belong here?" You answered by handing him a bowl of roasted yam and sitting beside him in silence. Because that's how your people say yes. The next morning he took your sister's hand and asked her how to paint the bird on his chest. She showed him. The red and white lines curved across his ribs like wings. He smiled and said, "Now they see." And they did. From then on he joined the hunts. He could not aim a bow well, but he could climb trees in ways that surprised even the monkeys. He brought down birds with nets, tracked small animals by watching leaf patterns, and once, just once, led the hunters around a wasp's nest none of them had seen. Your father gave him a new knife. Your grandmother taught him how to say family in your oldest tongue. And when strangers passed nearby again, your people did not hide him. They hid with him. He had become more than a guest. He had become story. A child left behind who did not leave. A name remade. A boy with a compass who now followed the wind. And one night, when he carved a mask from soft bark, the kind worn by your people during rites of passage, he did not make it with foreign eyes. He carved it with yours, wide, quiet, still. The trail is different now. Where once there were roots to hop across, now there are only charred stumps and soil as grey as bone. You step carefully, your feet soft on the ash. Each step sends up a puff, like breath from a sleeping spirit. This was where your grandfather used to fish. You remember his voice like wind through leaves, patient, low, humming sometimes as he tied lines and murmured to the river. Back then, the canopy was thick here. Parrots nested high above, and monkeys would toss fruit if you got too close to their trees. Now the sky is open and pale. The birds have gone quiet. Even the river seems smaller, as if grieving. Beside you, a child asks why the spirits didn't stop the fire. You say nothing, because what can you say? That not all spirits fight, that some simply watch, that fire and spirit are not always enemies? You do not know the right words, so instead you kneel in the powdery dirt and dig a small hole. From your pouch, you pull a single seed. You place it in the earth. Cover it. Breathe. This too is a kind of answer. The fire came 2 seasons ago. It moved fast, like anger. It crackled through the underbrush, up tree trunks, across vines. The birds fled first, the animals next. People followed. Some returned to find nothing. Others never came back. You remember your uncle standing still as the fire reached the edge of the riverbank, his eyes reflecting red. He whispered something, maybe a name, maybe a prayer. Then he turned away and didn't speak for days. Now, the jungle is trying. Here and there, shoots push through the blackened ground, bright green against ash. A fern curls beside a burned log. A vine dares to climb a scorched trunk. Even the ants return, carrying crumbs too small for your eyes. You sit beside the river and listen. It still remembers your grandfather. The water gurgles over the same rocks he once knelt on. The current splits around the same bend. Somewhere upstream you think you hear the splash of a fish, or maybe just a memory pretending to be one. You wonder if the trees remember him too. That night, you bring the children here. You do not tell them it was once your grandfather's place. You do not speak of loss. Instead, you teach them how to watch. You point out the stars reflected in the water. You show them how the moon touches only part of the riverbank, and how fireflies gather where the light ends. You let them taste the bitter bark of a returning shrub. One child says, "It's awful." You smile. That means it's healing. Later, you hand each of them a seed. No one asks what kind. They understand. Your dreams that night are full of trees. Some are old, the kind that creak when they move. Others are new, their leaves still tender, their roots not yet deep. They speak without words. Their voices are the groan of wood, the hush of moss, the sigh of wind. They ask, "Do you still listen?" You do. You wake with dirt under your nails and a beetle on your chest. In the following days, others begin to come. Your sister plants a row of medicinal shrubs near the river's bend. Your cousin marks a circle where the old shrine used to be and scatters crushed herbs to bless it. Even the boy with the compass kneels, confused at first, then reverent. He does not know the rituals, but he understands rhythm and silence and planting without expecting to harvest. A woman from another village brings fish bones and scatters them in the soil. "They feed the roots," she says. Another man carves tiny birds from wood and places them in branches, a promise to the ones who left. Slowly, the ashes shift. The memory becomes more than pain. It becomes place again. One morning, a child finds a sapling with broad leaves and strange veins. She asks if it's a gift from the spirits. You crouch, touch its leaf, feel the roughness beneath. "No," you say gently. "It's a gift from time." She nods like she understands. Maybe she does. Maybe that's enough. You begin carving again, not for ceremony, not for war, for the roots. You make small markers, each etched with a word or gesture. You bury them beside new plants, beneath stones, next to stumps. They are reminders, not of what was lost, but of what returned. Some days the jungle is silent. On others it bursts with frogs and bees and shouting monkeys. You take each sound as a sign of breath, of rhythm, of patience. You pass the fishing spot again, now lined with saplings. A hummingbird darts past. You do not look for your grandfather. You look for his echo in the leaves. And it is there. You wake before the sun, the air damp with breath from the river. Mist curls low between the trees, wrapping the shoots and saplings like protective fingers. The others are still asleep in the longhouse, their forms rising and falling with quiet breath. but you're drawn to the clearing, to the place that used to be ruin and now begins to resemble something else. The seed you planted weeks ago has cracked open. A green sprout curls upward, tender and reaching. You kneel before it, not to speak, not to pray, just to be there. The child who once asked about the spirits stands behind you now. She doesn't say anything either. She just places a smooth stone next to the sprout, then walks away. In the new world, gestures speak louder than drums. The forest remembers in pieces. A vine reclaims the skeletal remains of a hut. A squirrel returns to a tree still half dead. Cicadas hum again at dusk. You walk the trails barefoot to feel what the earth says. It says we begin again. There's a shift in your people too. Less laughter, but more purpose. Less song, but deeper rhythm in how feet hit the ground, how baskets are carried, how silence settles without fear. No one talks of the fire anymore, not because they forget, but because they carry it now, like a scar that no longer stings. The boy with the compass maps the trees with sticks and pebbles. He doesn't understand your tongue, but he traces the old rivers with his finger, marking where they've changed. Sometimes you sit beside him. You don't speak either. You don't need to. He holds the sky in his eyes. You hold the soil in yours. Between you, the forest finds balance. One evening, a tree falls, not from fire, not from axe, but from age. It collapses slowly, groaning, leaning, then crashing into the ground with a sigh. Children run to it. Some touch the bark. One climbs atop the trunk. You step forward and kneel beside the splintered base. The tree's rings are wide, too wide, the signs of rapid growth, of strain. Perhaps from the fire's heat, or its roots scorched beneath. You place your palm against the wound and whisper, "Thank you." Then you begin to cut. Not to burn, not for weapons. You carve planks for steps, shapes for toys, bowls for grain. You use what the forest offers, nothing more. Seasons shift. Rains come late this year. The river runs low, but the plants still rise. The shoots you planted grow taller than your waist now. Birds perch in their branches. A monkey steals one of your carving tools and screeches with glee before dropping it into the mud. You laugh, really laugh, for the first time since the fire. Joy, like green, returns in patches. The woman who scattered fish bones brings cassava to share. The man with the carved birds teaches a boy how to string a bow. Your sister hums again while weaving a new basket, her voice small but clear. You spend afternoons under the tree that fell, sitting where its canopy used to reach. The shade is thinner, but the breeze moves through like it remembers. Children chase each other there. A baby crawls across roots that haven't yet decided if they'll live again. Life stutters, then flows. You tell stories now. At night, beside the low fire, with the crickets humming and the moon casting long lines across the dirt, you speak of the old forest, of how your grandfather knew which birds could mimic human voices, of how he taught you to bait a line with your own breath. You speak of him like a tree that never fell, one whose shadow still touches you. A child asks why the fire came. You answer, because we stopped listening. And then, but we're listening again. That is enough for now. One dawn, the first flowers bloom again. Tiny yellow things. No scent, just colour. A shout of brightness against the ash. You pluck one, gently, and tie it into a child's hair. She beams, and just like that, it becomes part of the story. Your carving tools are worn smooth with time. The boy with the compass, now older, now steady, brings you metal scraps from a broken musket. You shape a new blade from it, burnish the edge, etch your mark into the handle. Not your name, a tree with roots deep, branches reaching. This you hand to a new learner, not because you are done carving, but because the forest keeps growing, and one pair of hands is not enough. The land is still scarred. Patches of char still cling to stone. Some trees never sprouted back. Some wounds stay wounds. But there is music in how the leaves move again. There is poetry in the weeds. And in the space where a shrine once stood, a circle of stones now gathers moss, surrounded by stories whispered from memory, and memory whispered from leaf. The tree remembers, and so do you. You are no longer the boy who chased frogs, no longer the barefoot child who whispered to beetles and fell asleep beside rivers. That boy still lives in you, but now you carry more than wonder. You carry memory and expectation. The elders have called a gathering. You know what it means. They say nothing as they lead you to the clearing. The entire village is already waiting. Smoke rises from the hearth pit in spirals, carrying sweet leaves and crushed bark into the dusk. Drums thrum low and steady, not like the festival beats of your childhood, but slow, deliberate, grounding. You kneel beside the fire as the circle closes. Across from you, your father's gaze is unreadable. Behind you, your sister hums a melody you don't recognize. The elder woman, the one who named your mother and her mother before, steps forward with a carved bowl. It's filled with red pigment made from clay and fruit and bloodroot. She dips 2 fingers in and begins to mark your face. 1 stroke across the brow for patience, 1 down the nose for strength, 2 at the jaw, 1 for listening, the other for knowing when not to speak. Then finally a spiral on the chest, over your heart, for memory. You do not flinch. You do not blink. She says your old name once, softly. Then she blows into the bowl and scatters the pigment into the fire. The flames rise, and in the silence she speaks your new name. You do not recognize it. Not at first, but it wraps around you like the first blanket you were swaddled in, years ago. Warm, heavy, true. You're not alone in the moment. Hands rise, voices chant. The drumming stops, then starts again, slower, heavier, like footsteps, sinking into earth. They hand you a carved necklace, a piece of riverwood etched with ancient glyphs, strung on fibre twisted from the bark of the tree that bled when your cousin was born. It is not a gift. It is a burden wrapped in reverence. You hold it, you feel its weight, and theirs. That night, no one speaks to you, not out of disrespect, but out of recognition. You are now the one who listens first. You sit by the fire and let the smoke cling to your skin. The air is thick with night insects, with the hiss of distant frogs, and with the echoes of your own thoughts. What does it mean to have a new name? Does the boy you were vanish, or does he walk beside you in silence? You stare at your hands. They are not different, but somehow they are not the same. In the days that follow, people come to you quietly. A young hunter shows you a broken arrowhead and waits for your nod before crafting a new one. A mother places a fevered child in your lap and does not look back. A girl who once mocked your silence now asks how to weave reeds into sandals that last. No one says, now that you have a name, you must. They simply begin to treat you as if you always had it. And so you do. You listen more. You speak less. But when you speak, they pause. When you move, they watch. And when the old men argue about where the fishing lines should be drawn, they ask for your opinion, not because it will end the debate, but because they need the calm between storms. Your father nods at you once, passing on his way to gather resin. He says nothing, but the nod says enough. One evening, a child runs into your hut with a frog in her hands. She squeals with joy, oblivious to the way its legs kick for escape. You kneel beside her. You do not scold. You do not smile. You open your hands and show her how to hold the creature without fear. Gently, steady, like water held in a leaf. She nods, then releases it. As the frog vanishes into the ferns, she asks, "What was your name before?" You look at her and say, "The one who caught frogs." She laughs, not knowing the echo she's awakened, and runs back into the dusk. You sit in that moment a while longer, letting the past and present walk together beside the fire, and the necklace rests against your skin, still warm. There is a saying among your people, "A name given is a path opened." You begin to walk that path. It is not paved in ceremony or songs, but in small moments. A glance held longer, a task no longer explained, the way others pause before interrupting your thoughts. You have not changed your voice or your hands, but the village has changed how it listens. Your uncle no longer beats his drum before sunrise. He waits for your signal, a simple nod, a word, a gesture. He says it's because the forest responds better that way, but you suspect it's more than that. Respect has a rhythm, and yours is now part of it. Children follow you when you go to gather mushrooms. They do not speak. They copy the way your eyes move across bark, how your fingers brush the underside of leaves without breaking them. When a root snake startles one of them, you do not chase it off. You kneel and let the snake pass, then explain its meaning, not as a threat, but as a sign. Something is shifting underground. Later, when your sister returns from a journey with the neighboring clan, she brings stories about a boy who once wept during the hunt, who now teaches even the elders how to walk without disturbing birds. You know she speaks of you, but you say nothing. Instead, you carve the story into a reed, tie it with vine, and place it in the woven box at the edge of the village, where stories are kept for those not yet born. One moonless night, a storm lashes the trees into snarls and strips the thatch from 3 huts. Rain pours sideways and thunder sounds like the forest is breaking apart. People gather in the central shelter. Some cry, some chant. You sit near the opening, watching how the water moves across roots and mud. Your mother comes to sit beside you. Her hand rests on your shoulder. She says, "Your name suits you." You glance at her, she continues, "Because even the storm is quieter when you look at it." You do not answer, but something inside you shifts. Not like a falling tree, but like a seed breaking open beneath soil. The elders begin to send you to speak with others. Small journeys at first. 2 rivers away, then 3. You listen more than you talk. You learn to watch how other clans hold their bows, how they greet birds, how they light their fires. One clan burns cinnamon leaves before prayers. Another refuses to sleep with heads pointing west. Each detail is a thread. You gather them like vines, braiding them into your memory. When you return, you say only what matters. They remember the old songs. Their drumbeat matches ours. And the elders nod, because that too is leadership, knowing when not to fear difference. You begin to carve your own necklace, not to wear. The one given to you still rests against your chest, but to pass down. You choose wood from a tree that bent instead of breaking during the last storm. Its bark carries marks from lightning, a scar that healed in a spiral. You shape it slowly, sanding it with river stones, oiling it with seed paste, humming your grandmother's lullaby. It is not meant for now, but someday someone will need it, and you want them to feel what you felt, the weight of becoming. One afternoon you catch a boy stealing dried fish from a smoke basket. He runs when he sees you, but you do not chase. You follow slowly until he stops, panting, eyes wide, shame thick in his throat. He says nothing. You offer him a second fish. He doesn't take it. You say one is for hunger, the other is for returning. He takes both, then weeps. You say nothing more. Later that night he leaves a bundle of kindling by your hut. The next morning he follows you to the river and doesn't speak until spoken to. Sometimes that is how names are born, not from drums but from choices. The dry season comes. Leaves crisp. Rivers shrink. Game becomes harder to track. Tensions rise. A fight nearly breaks out over a broken net. You step between the men. You do not raise your voice. You raise your hands. Open. Empty, you say, a trap prepared together feeds twice. They grumble, but the net is mended. Together. And that evening, the fish are plenty. You do not smile, but your sister does. She sings while roasting the catch. You wake one morning to find the old storyteller waiting by your door. He sits cross-legged, silent. You join him. He says, "When I go, you will speak for me." You want to say, "I don't know the stories." But you do. They've been watching you since you were small, carved into bark, sung on the wind, etched into your own footprints. He hands you a shell, smooth, pink, shaped like a curled tongue. "You'll know when to use it," he says, then walks away. You do not call after him. You hold the shell in your palm and feel it hum. Your breath fogs in the morning now, not like it used to. Not like when you were young and chased howler monkeys through thickets before the sun had stretched its arms. Back then, you didn't notice your breath. Now it announces itself in little clouds that vanish into dawn, like memory. Your knees creak when you squat. Your shoulder winces when you draw the bowstring. You pretend not to notice. But the forest does. The vines part more gently now. The frogs quiet a little sooner when you pass. The canopy feels lower, closer somehow, as if the trees lean in to listen when you speak. And speak you do, but less than before. It's not that you have nothing to say. It's that silence says it better. You've learned the hush of wind between palm fronds carries more than words ever could. When your daughter sits beside you and chews root bark after a long climb, there's no need for praise. She already knows. You see it in the set of her jaw, the fire in her legs, the way her eyes follow the hawk across the treetops. She walks where you once ran, she dives where you once swam. Her laughter sounds like your sister's did, and when she presses herbs into a wound, her touch is firm like your mother's. The past echoes in her without her even knowing, and that is how it should be. There is a spot near the eastern ridge, a flat stone cracked with age where moss never grows. That's where you sit on days when the air tastes like coming rain. You carve a name into a piece of driftwood and lay it at the base of the stone. Not your name, not yet. But names of others. Your brother who fell to fever, your friend who never returned from the flooded trail, the baby who lived just 6 sunrises. Names are anchors. When breath is gone, a name still tethers the spirit. The younger ones call you the quiet one. You don't correct them. They think you've grown distant. But you're not gone. You're watching, listening, waiting for the right winds. And sometimes you remember things so vividly they punch the breath from your chest, like the feel of the first spear in your hand, the first time you kissed a girl beside the fire, the sting of nettles on bare legs, the coppery smell of blood after a fight, the heat of a storm that cracked open a tree beside your hut. The forest keeps those memories even when you forget. You see your stories in the way vines curl, the pattern of ants across a log, the hush before a jaguar growls. You do not need to be remembered by name. You will be remembered by shape, by rhythm, by scent. At night, you hear the drums in your sleep, not from this village but from years ago. Old rhythms, dances long ended. The ghosts keep dancing. You do not fear them. They are your cousins, your teachers, your rivals, your younger self. They arrive not to take you, but to remind you. You were alive. You mattered. You still do. Your daughter wakes you early one morning and says the parrots are gathering near the western cliffs. They only do that when something's coming, she whispers. You nod. She doesn't need your wisdom. She already carries her own, but she still wanted to share the moment. You are grateful. Later that day, you lead her to the edge of the old burned grove, the one that turned to ash before she was born. You tell her about the deer that once grazed there, the place where her grandfather fell from a tree trying to reach a beehive, the spot where you first saw a jaguar's paw print and felt fear that was not shameful, but sacred. She listens. She presses her palm to the earth. And for a moment, the forest is quiet. Even the birds pause their chatter. Even the insects hush, as if listening too. You think maybe this is what it means to age well, to become the silence others need. You do not say it aloud, but you feel it settle into your bones like the warmth of a fire. That night, your daughter brings out your old drum, the one with faded paint and frayed cord. She asks if it still works. You shrug. Let's find out. You beat it gently. The rhythm is uneven, but steady. Your heart beats with it. Others come, they hum, they sway. And just before you close your eyes to sleep, you hear a child ask, "Who made that song?" Someone answers, "The forest." And you smile, knowing that answer is true. The dry season creeps in with cracking leaves and days that taste of smoke. Your joints warn you before the storms now. You sit longer than you walk. Yet still, when the village gathers to greet the dawn, your place remains near the fire. Not because you need warmth, but because they still wait for your nod before the day begins. You don't lead anymore, not with hands, but your presence still holds weight, like an old tree no longer bearing fruit, but giving shade. A child stumbles over a root. You catch him by instinct. He laughs, embarrassed, then races off. You say nothing, but he glances back once as if to thank you. You nod. It is enough. Your hut is quieter than it used to be. The tools on the wall have not been touched in moons. The bow no longer bends under your hand. The spear rests as a memory more than a weapon. But your ears are sharp, your stories sharper still. Children gather around you at dusk, not because they are told to, but because the silence you carry draws them. They ask questions. You answer only some. Others you let fall like seeds to sprout later. One girl asks why the river bends near the cedar tree. You tell her it remembers something. She nods solemnly, as if she understands. Perhaps she does. The young no longer need to be convinced of mystery. They feel it, still tender in their bones. You think of your own youth, of chasing fish with bare hands, of singing under the waterfall, of carving names into bark. Those names are still there, somewhere in the green. Time does not erase them, only hides them beneath layers of moss and memory. Your daughter now carries your drum. She ties it to her hip with fresh cord. She sings in a voice deeper than you remember. The chants she leads are not the ones you were taught, but they hold truth. You hear it in how the trees listen when she begins. She stands in the place you once stood, and you are proud, not because she follows your path, but because she made her own. One morning, as the fog still curls between the huts, your daughter kneels beside you. She offers you a carved shell, the kind used only in ceremonies. You do not ask why, you simply hold it. The edge is smooth, the markings unfamiliar, new symbols for a new time. She bows and says, "We remember." You nod. She is not just speaking of you. That evening, the forest gives you a sign. A cicada lands on your wrist and does not move. You watch it, motionless. Its wings tremble once, then go still. You know what this means. You've seen it before. When your grandmother passed, when your brother went into the mist. Nature always whispers first. You do not fear it. That night you eat slowly. You share stories, but only the short ones. You smile more than you speak. Your daughter places a woven mat beside your bed. She does not say why. You do not ask. The moon rises heavy and orange. You lie down, but do not sleep right away. You listen. The wind carries distant chants. A child laughs. Someone strikes flint to light the fire. The world continues, and you at last are ready. At sunrise, your daughter finds the drum beside your mat. A feather rests atop it, black, from a raven. She kneels. She does not cry. She whispers your name and adds 2 more syllables to it. A new name, the kind only spoken for those who have become part of the forest. The tribe gathers. They do not wail. They sing, because you did not vanish. You became a song, a pattern in the roots, a pause in the wind, a shape carved into time. The boy you were, the man you became, all folded into the hum of the jungle, the silence of the hunt, the hush before the rains. They will not forget. And even when your name is no longer spoken, your footsteps will remain. In how they bend branches, in how they answer birds, in how they carry the drum with reverence.